There isn't one single key to a happy life. Our happiness comes from many things, like connecting with others, how we treat ourselves, and how we relate to the natural world around us. And there are practices that have been shown in the lab to help us get better at these things. I'm Dacher Keltner, psychologist at UC Berkeley. Join me on the Science of Happiness podcast as we explore these practices. In each episode, guests from all walks of life give a practice a try. And then we hear from experts about why they work. Find the Science of Happiness wherever you get your podcasts.
Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the podcaster who's severely lacking in pop culture references that are relevant because I just haven't been listening to any not just pop music. It's summertime for me. When you're hearing this, it may not be summertime, some summertime So, yeah, I'm just here. You see, man, this is confusing. I thought this was a sleep podcast. Yeah, this is a podcast that's here to keep you company and put you to sleep. I'm glad you're here. It's a little bit different, but you're the most important thing about the show. So, if you're new, glad you're here. If you're a regular listener, what up, my regular listeners? It's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. And here's a couple of ways we're able to do it for you for free twice a week. Hey, everybody, I want to let you know about a podcast I love and a podcaster I love. If you want to learn about fascinating moments in history in the most relaxing way possible, then you got to check out Calm History. Each episode is narrated in a calm voice to help you relax or fall asleep. You'll learn about famous explorers, leaders, inventions, civilizations, and ancient wonders. And there's even a 6-part series about the Titanic. So just check your podcast player for Calm History, CALM History, or use the link in our show notes and check it out. Thanks, everybody. Everybody, this is, I don't know how this is going to go. This is I was thinking about Bunsen burner love in my odes to Bunsen burners that I may have talked about in the intro. But then I said, Bunsen burner love reminds me of a song, when I was like, well, what would that be? Could I talk about Bunsen burners for 50 minutes? And, without just going about Bunsen, honeydew, and beaker. And then I said, well, I don't know. And then I said, but then I thought about something that I don't think I've ever talked about on the show. And that's the song Radar Love, which I'm already embarrassed because I did pause it for a split second to look up. So this is going to be interesting because I didn't even open. Here's the thing. I had amends to make, apologies to give before I even finished opening my mouth. So up until literally this point in my life, today I learned, and I'm not kidding, this is not done for the podcast. My whole life, so there's a song called Radar Love, which I thought of Bunsen burner love. Let's actually do the syllables. Radar Love. That's 3 syllables. Bunsen burner love. Bunsen, that's 2. Unfortunately, that's 2 syllables. Bunsen burner love. Radar love. Bunsen burner love. Too many syllables, so I can't. But that's a song I thought of when I thought of Bunsen burner love. And up until literally this point in my life, I thought that song was sung by the band Bad Company. And I'll get into a little bit of that now. But it turns out it's not. I've been living yet another delusion that I've been living in a fraught delusion. That's why I want to talk about it. So I do feel some relief. Now, those of you that are younger than me, you didn't have to experience any of this in your life, so you're very lucky. And, once I turned my will of listening to music over to Carole King, like you hear on the podcast, I didn't have to worry about it much either, too. But, so where am I? So there's a song called Radar Love. We'll talk about that in a minute. But there's a band called Bad Company. And I'm pretty sure the lead singer of Bad Company is named Paul Rogers. And so once upon a time when I was young, we couldn't, you had to buy music. That's a whole thing. There's probably going to be, or it's probably documentaries about it. It was post-vinyl era, but so you could buy music on CD or cassette, or they wanted, so you like, whatever, that was just, but you also listened to the radio. And I was born at the time, like where there was still college radio, which was like independent radio. But other than that, even back when I was a kid, most of the radio stations were owned by a few different companies. And, obviously they had to pay the bills. So I'm not sitting in total judgment, but there wasn't a lot of variety on the radio. Now there was more when I was a lad than there is now. But there still wasn't a variety. And there was one station called, there was wherever you went, there was like usually, I think there was something called adult contemporary. I don't know what that is. And then there's pop. I don't know if Chris Cross, like Yacht Rock is adult contemporary. I'm not kidding. I don't know what that is, but that was popular. Well, let's go through the dial of a kid when I was growing up in Syracuse. So it'd be two pop stations, and they moved around the dial, but one was like Z89. I don't know their call sign. Some of these I might be getting mixed up with like other places I've lived, but there was Z89. That was a pop station. So even, I don't know if it's still a pop station, but pop would mean Weekend, Taylor Swift, Doja Cat, Bieber, boy bands, mix of popular songs, like the top, maybe they called it top 40 back then instead of a pop station. I don't know. But so that was, and I think 93, Y90, there was Y94 FM. I think that was adult contemporary. And then there was 93.7, I think, that was also a pop station, probably Y94 FM. That was adult contemporary. I just said that. I don't know what 93 whatever was, because I can't think of it. But that was the other, I think, pop station. And then eventually you get pop and hip-hop and R&B. Anyway, I'm getting way too mixed up. But so there was one type of station, and I think in Syracuse it was... I don't know what it was called. I should know, but I think it was 95.7, but that could be in the Bay Area. But I think the Bay Area, like The Bone was their classic rock station, 107.7 The Bone. 95X, turn it up. Yeah, that's what they would say, because it was cool. Like they'd say it like, there's that Freedom Rock, that turn it up. But 95.7, what did I say? ZX9? 95.7. I had it, but whatever. And then at some point, then they started changing stations to like the Eagle. Like instead of being the call signs were cool, they became uncool. And that, I think that was about the time satellite radio appeared, where again, this is not history. This is just my misremembering of it. But there'd be like 95.7 KQR. I don't know. Now I have all these numbers in my head. Why did I like? Is that Freedom Rock? No, is that 95.7? Turn it up, man. I forgot what it was called, but that station was called Classic Rock. Now, in the 90s, what was classic rock? Classic rock was anything from the Beatles. I think then after that, it was whatever. But for the most part, it was limited, unfortunately, to about, I don't know if it was 100 songs, 50 songs, or 200 songs. It would be good to do that research. But it was not a lot of songs in repetition. And there's people, usually, like radio stations, in order to stay in business, they have a pretty heavy ad load, you say. So it's like, if there's an hour or for 30 minutes of radio, I think even then the ad load was pretty heavy, where it was like 40% ads or whatever, understandably, because you're listening for free in your car. And so you'd like change the dial, but, so whatever, I listened to the classic rock was one of the radio stations I listened to. And because, there was some classic rock, but I developed, okay, and let me place another picture here for you. A lot of jobs I had, you weren't allowed to you weren't allowed to have a personal device for listening to audio because it would be considered inappropriate. So you weren't allowed to have headphones on at a lot of my jobs. So, and even if you did, we'll get into that. But I did have when I was a cleaner, cleaning apartments and doing landscaping and mopping, cleaning bathrooms. When we were cleaning the apartments, someone would move out of an apartment and we would have to clean it to get it ready for the next person to move into it or for them to lease it. We would be able to listen to music or radio if we didn't make it too loud, and we would split up the apartments. So normally, here's how it would work. Two people would be assigned to clean one apartment. And I don't know if you had to do two, on the days you were trying to turn over apartments, you already had your morning work until our morning meeting. I think I've talked about this. This was my summer and winter job when I wasn't in school, university or college or whatever you want to call it. So what you would do, walk you through this. Who would have known? Talk about bad, my middle name's Bad Company. But so you would show up to work and you'd have, I think we had to get to work at 7:30. I think we worked 7:30 to 4, 9 to 5. Because we didn't get paid for, I think we got a 30-minute break, so 8 to 4, or there was an unpaid 30 minutes. I don't know. Yeah, 30 minutes paid break and 30 minutes of unpaid break. So you had to be at work for 8.5 hours. So I think we got to work at 7:30, and you'd have your morning assignment, right? So you would go, my morning assignment, I worked in the lobby with, I'm sure I've told this story before, but maybe it's just in my personal life. But so I'd clean the lobby bathrooms, and we would vacuum and mop the lobby and clean anything else that needed to be done. I worked with this guy, Jim. He was the main lobby guy. So I'd be Jim's assistant. Then we would have a morning meeting, everybody that worked there, and our supervisors, the superintendent and the assistant superintendent, they would say, they'd go, there was a board with all the apartments, where they were, if they needed to be cleaned or painted. I don't know if you cleaned or painted first. Probably had to clean it and then paint it. I don't remember. Now, painting they had a painter, so because that's a skill. So Paul was the painter, and they also had people that were skilled maintenance people. So again, we didn't do any fixing anything. I was just a cleaner. I think that was my technical job, cleaner, or summer help or something. I don't know. But so there'd be a list of apartments, or there'd be other jobs that had to be done. But so you'd have to turn over these apartments. So you usually get assigned an apartment with somebody else, and probably a set time. And again, I don't know how, you wouldn't want to be in an apartment for even for the full 6 hours. Don't think you probably had maybe 4 hours or less in an apartment. Again, there's a lot of other work to be done. So I guess I don't quite remember how long. And there was different apartments, there's studios, which I think they called efficiencies, and 1-bedrooms, and maybe 2 bedrooms. I don't know if there was very many 2 bedrooms. So this was this was only for adults. It wasn't a retirement building because it was just apartments, but it was for adults over a certain age. I don't know if it was 55 or 65 or 60, but but none of that's important. So you'd clean the apartments, and you would be assigned there. I just wanted to set the mood. In the apartments, I don't think there was any carpet normally, linoleum floors or tile, some sort of, not linoleum, tile. That would be the last thing you would do, is to clean, wax, and polish the floors. And again, the waxing, and you take the wax off. Like all those were skills that I eventually learned, but I don't think I ever got the waxing of the floor down because it was a permanent, it was a temporary permanent wax. So you'd strip the floors. I think you strip the floors first before you clean it. Yeah, maybe, but you don't wax it until that's like the last thing you do after everything else is done, because then it has to dry. So probably would go painting, then cleaning, then waxing. Okay, but we're focused on the cleaning. So normally if you had a partner, the first thing you would do is you decide, like like you'd think, oh, the bathroom's going to be the worst, but the bathroom wasn't the worst job. So it was the kitchen, and normally you would divvy up the kitchen for two or three jobs. So I think you'd either get the appliances or the cabinets, because this was a generation of people that, I think at the time you could still smoke cigarettes in your place. And there was a lot of kitchen cabinets. And so cleaning the kitchen cabinets was like, you'd either have to clean the kitchen cabinets or the refrigerator and the stove, the oven. And so you'd decide who was going to do each one of those, or you'd switch it off, or somebody got into the apartment earlier and saw the fridge. And like, so sometimes you'd decide before you went in there, and you get really unlucky, because, anything can be cleaned. I mean, if it got to a certain point, they'd replace it, and eventually we would replace all the stoves and ovens. That was like when I was working there in both buildings. These are 2 apartment towers. So you decide, okay, who's going to clean the oven and the stove, and who's going to clean the cabinets. And you would also have to clean, well, the baseboards. I'm trying to think what else in the apartment. All the fixtures. Anything. So what else do you have to clean? All the plates, the switches and stuff, all the light fixtures, and the bathroom. So I think after the kitchen, you divvied up, like one person would do the bathroom and one person would probably do everything else. I don't know. I'll think of it eventually. And yeah, so I'm guessing if it was a 1-bedroom, you're talking, the windows, so you'd have to clean the windows. So I guess, yeah, if you were the other person, you'd have to clean the windows and the, everything in the apartment except for the bathroom. And I don't find myself doing the bathroom too often. Like, I think some people preferred the bathroom and some people didn't, but whatever. And so, but one of the key benefits of that is that someone would have a radio. So you'd set up a radio in the room. And now, most of the time, yeah, you would listen to classic rock, because, there wasn't many options. I mean, maybe you'd listen to pop, but then, you might get, I don't know, it might be like classic rock was like the one point most people could tolerate and agree on. And you couldn't, definitely wouldn't be listening to anything like talking. I'm surprised we didn't listen to more sports talk, but probably wouldn't have been too enjoyable either. But so you listen to the classic rock most of the time, and that would at least help you. You'd think it became an exercise in futility, to be honest with you. And this is probably why I love podcasting and making podcasts and all that stuff, is there's so much variety. And I mean, and then how lucky those of you that have just grown up in the streaming era, how lucky you are. Now, the one thing that's missing that companies are still, and I've tried to tell these companies to do it, is that, even though there's like streaming and stuff, it's like people still enjoy having somebody that's like an expert or a DJ sometimes, in my opinion. So yeah, because you listen to the radio, but it was barely tolerable because it was really, I'm not kidding, the same 200, if on best case scenario, maybe 300 songs over the week. And you would hear some songs and you just became, and this is just me, it's not a judgment on the musical quality of this band, but one of the bands that had my ire was Bad Company. And I'm not sure why, There was other bands, like even at the time, like there's like Led Zeppelin, you can mostly tell, like is mostly good. I mean, even though they wouldn't play very deep into the Led Zeppelin catalog, or the Beatles, and Rush even. Like sometimes they played Tom Sawyer too much, but you still be like, okay, there's something timeless about those bands most of the time. I mean, even in overexposure, you might have preferred not to listen to the same songs over and over again, or whatever. Rolling Stones, there's a lot. The Who, these those are the classic rock stalwarts. But Bad Company, if you were listening to a classic rock station in the '90s for 3 hours, you were going to hear a Bad Company song. And I was not a Bad Company fan. I mean, at some point. But let's read about them from Wikipedia. They're an English rock supergroup formed in 1973. Paul Rodgers is the lead singer. And then they've had different lineups. Let's see how many years. They were active from 73 to 82, 86 to 99, 2001 to 2002, and 2008 to present. They had great success in the 70s, so that would have been 20 years. The 90s, that's what makes, I guess, 20 years is classic rock. Their singles were Bad Company. Oh, Feel Like Making Love. That's one of the songs. So maybe we could, maybe that, I don't know if we should associate that. Can't Get Enough. Good Lovin' Gone Bad. Rock and Roll Fantasy. That's not bad. Shooting Star. Ready for Love. Oh, yeah. Ugh. Feel Like Making Love I like because it's like a great punchline, like for everything. But I just say it. History. So there's a Paul Rodgers era. I saw Paul Rodgers perform once. I was very under the influence, and I have no idea where and what point in my life it was or where it was because I was already too far gone. But I remember he was a very hairy man. And I don't think he had a shirt on, or if he did, it was open to his belly. And he performed mostly Bad Company songs. Let's see. So, contrary to speculation, they named the band after a Jeff Bridges film. Rogers stated that came from a book of Victorian morals that showed a child looking up at an unsavory character against the lamppost and said, "Beware of bad company." There was 4 seasons of musicians from a couple different bands. Their debut album came out in 74. It reached number 1 on the 200 chart in the U.S. and number 3 in the U.K. Certified 5 times platinum. Can't Get Enough and Moving On. 75, their second album, Straight Shooter, came out. Number 3 in the U.K. and U.S., but went platinum in the U.S. Good Lovin' Gone Bad, and Feel Like Making Love. Third album, Run With the Pack, reached number 4. That was 76. Then Burning Sky in 77. So they put out an album a year. Smart business. Then they, had it on and off. Brian Howe, they took over 85. Looks like they replaced, Rogers already had a new supergroup called The Firm. I definitely didn't see him in the maybe the late 90s or aughts. Let's see. But yeah, they formed a new supergroup, and they had other albums and stuff. And this is no offense to, like, my issue with Bad Company is just overexposure to those same songs, like familiar, like whatever they call it. Whoa, Return of Paul Rodgers, 98 to 2008. So maybe that is when I saw him. I don't know. I have to ask around at my friends because it's like, when did I see Bad Company and where? Or Paul Rodgers. I mean, it could have been at a music festival. I remember he was very enthusiastic, very sweaty, very hairy, but gave it his all. And we probably had fun. I don't know. So that's about Bad Company. I don't know why. So, okay. But up until, I guess it took me 20 minutes or something to explain that. Up until today in my life, I assumed the song Radar Love, which I guess I can see because they have different love songs. Like I really so there's a song called Radar Love, which we'll talk about in the Bunsen burner. I don't know how we'll relate it to Bunsen burners, but we will. But it turns out Radar Love I just learned this by the Dutch rock band Golden Earring. And I really like Radar Love. And the only thing I had against it, well, one, it was a slightly overexposure, but it has a couple different, like it's one of those songs that has a couple different acts in it, or feels like it changes. And it has a couple different feels to it. Like there's like a part where you're driving and they're talking about driving and then the rock comes in and then it comes back out. And there's like a not a quiet desperation, but a desperation that I like about it. So we'll talk about it and maybe think about how Bunsen burners relate. But it was news to me that it wasn't by Bad Company. And that was like, other than slight overexposure on classic rock radio, that's my only other beef was like, I love Radar Love, but I loathe Bad Company. Only, again, nothing against Bad Company. It's my issue only. Nothing against Bad Company, just my feelings about them. So let's find out about Radar Love and maybe Golden Earring before we get into the lyrics. Let's see, this is mostly like technical stuff, so we might just have to get into like cover versions. It's been covered by Tribe 8, Ministry, U2, REM, Ian Stewart Donaldson, Blue Man Group, Def Leppard, and a lot of other bands. Holy cow. Ghost Dance. I'm going to have to look up some of these covers and listen to them. It was in Guitar Hero. It was featured in a Simpsons episode twice, two different ones. And in a movie Baby Driver and George Clooney's film that just came out, The Tender Bar. So I guess I'm not the only person that likes this song. Let's see. It hit the charts. It came out in 1974. 13 in the U.S. Billboard. UK single 7. Number 1 in Spain. Number 1 in the Netherlands. But I mean, it must have been like some sort of super platinum or whatever. I think Golden Earring maybe had another, I don't know if, let's see, Golden Earring. Whoops, that's the wrong button. They're a Dutch rock band founded all the way back in 1961 in The Hague as the Golden Earrings. Radar Love, they had a song Twilight Zone and When the Lady Smiles. 30 top 10 singles on the Dutch charts, 25 albums. And I can hear someone saying their name, so maybe that's like a factoid. People tried to say, that song's not by Bad Company, it's by Golden Earring. And I said, thanks for, do you know that I loathe Bad Company? But that's only my own bad feelings. So, okay. So let's think about this here. So now we've gotten that out of the way, let me look up the lyrics, Radar Love lyrics. And then, oh boy, wrong way. And then we'll look up, Feel Like Making Love lyrics. Feel Like Making Bunsen Burner lyrics to you. I don't know. I always like punctuating, like feel like make, like, not like when I mean it, okay, let's start out with Bunsen Burner. So this goes out. So picture me again back towards the intro as a boy in a class. So once upon a time, we had these science classrooms in high school. And one of my great, I think I'd seen the movie E.T. And I've watched enough movies to know that this is where rom-coms, like the first sparks of romance happen, mostly, or one of the places that happen, other than, random collisions, is across the tables in a, I guess it would be chemistry lab and not a, well, that's right, because it would be a lab you'd use for biology or chemistry. I think we had two different labs, and I'm thinking about it. We did it at my high school. We had a bio lab and a chemistry lab because I can remember the teacher's desk was in different places because I'm picturing my chemistry. My chemistry teacher was also our economics teacher, Mr. P. And I talked about that one other time, I think, about the economics stuff. And Mark was my partner in chemistry. I guess that was economics. I wonder if he was also, maybe we had economics and chemistry together. That wouldn't make a lot of sense, but it would, But anyway, chemistry labs and science labs anywhere. Now they call it, I don't know if they have a STEM lab, but this is where, for me, no romance ever happened there except for the ones I saw on the big screen. But I always hoped it would happen. I can remember forlorn feelings, both of my classmates, but also thinking about that's very Freudian, I guess. There's nozzles and connectors and heat and warmth and sparks, chemicals, I don't know if they're binding, they're mixing and intermingling. Heady stuff for a high school student, But also for a person like me, who I guess maybe we should run through my history with. I think I've talked about chemistry sets before. Once upon a time, that was like what you would ask for when they said you're too old. At any point, if you watched enough television and movies like I did, you asked for a chemistry set. And this was prepubescence, where you would hope a chemistry set would unlock the powers of the universe. Now, for some people, it did because they actually took the time to read the instructions and stuff like that. And I was already running my own experiments before that, based on nothing more than what, So, I think more than once I got one. And I would proceed to kind of do stuff to be like, well, let's see it. Let's see if we could take it, adjust our house's foundation or, this makes things smell not good. Or, whatever, stuff, let's see what this happens with this stuff. And it was a different era. I'm sure that they were like, yeah, whatever, give it to the kids. They'll figure it out. Put a label. This might have been pre-label area. A lot of the tests, I was the kid but so I did get a chemistry set, at least one or some, and then probably other of my siblings did. And I remember one that was nicely organized and it had it was slot for everything. And back then, yeah, it was like it was a day. I was like, okay, if I can just get this right. Once again, I guess then it projected into the lab. Everything else is going to fall into place. If I could just mix these, right elements, then I'll feel fine. That didn't happen. But, I tried. And then that, I guess, projected into these labs where I would sit there and I had already had that sense that it was this one day sense, right? That one day. And then I had, I think then I was like, one day I'm going to get into one of those labs, like in the movies where there's nozzles and I'm going to, do some Bunsen burning. I'm going to get a beaker. I'm going to get one of those other things, those bubblers and those tubes with the swirl. I'm going to do some swirly stuff. I'm going to do some, I don't know what distillation is, I'm going to unlock chemical bonds, man. I'm going to do some chemical bonding and then it's going to be okay. And I remember sitting in that class, like I said in the intro, and just like touching, because they were this special kind of silver, really well made. You had at least our labs so the archetypal biochem labs for me had these thick black tabletops. Couldn't even write in them, but, they were made to, absorb whatever. And, you sat up, I think you sat on stools because you were up high. And then there was those nozzles, and like I said, that most of the time the teacher had them turned off or they weren't connected to anything. But I can feel it in my hands right now, that hard, cold metal that would get warmer and warmer under my touch. and just wondering if I turned the thing, if the gas was on, if I'd get in trouble because it would make a noise or a smell, and everybody knew that I was the one stroking and that's what I was doing. Like, it's a substitute, I guess, for other things. Like I'd do, like running my hands softly over touching those nozzles, and thinking about plugging that tube in there, and then that attaches to the Bunsen one day. And they probably were like, you're going to need 5 permission slips when we do actually use the Bunsen burner. Maybe your parents should actually be here with you because, but yeah, it's like, oh, Bunsen. So when I think about you, do I think about love? Bunsen burners. I don't want to live like I couldn't wait to hold you in my hand, to connect you together in your love that you would bring me somehow. Wasn't sure how. Like those golden dreams I had. I wasn't dreaming of my yesterday. Yesterday, I was dreaming of my future to wrap you, the heavenly rapture of connection, to forever, forever, forever. Oh boy, on the way. Because I felt like, making Bunsen burner love. Oh, did I feel like making Bunsen? Did I feel like making Bunsen? Feel like making Bunsen burning with you. Oh, Bunsen burner. Yeah, because Bo Bunsen, if I think about you, I think about like not just love, but the underlying feelings that lead to love, the spark, a big bang within me, right below my stomach, up, shooting up right now. I can still feel it. I feel titillated, and I'm not afraid to say it. Without you, Bunsen burner, I couldn't make without the connector, the valves, and that slotted thing in the tube. I couldn't make a Bunsen burner anyway. And now, I don't ask for much. I don't need the sun. I don't need the moon. I don't need the sun to shine on me. I just want to get connected, that rubber tube, and then turn that valve, and maybe use that sparky thing that looks like a cup, and you push it together, and hear it, and then hear that sweet, sweet thing that sounds like a fan at night that helps me sleep, so satisfying. Because my whole life I felt like Bunsen burning. Oh, felt like making a Bunsen burn. Oh, feel like making a Bunsen burn. Feel like making a Bunsen burn with you. Like I said, these are the golden dreams I had as a lad. Not a lot of lyrics here. I could bring me to another place. Take me away, Bunsen burner. It could be reborn just by watching you, by hearing your power. Oh, I'm on the way. I'm going somewhere. I'm going to be somebody. Because I feel like Bunsen, and feel like Bunsen burning. I feel like Bunsen burning. I feel like Bunsen burning. I feel like Bunsen burning with you, Bunsen burner. Yeah, no, well, I do. I feel like Bunsen burning. I do feel like burning my Bunsen. I do feel like burning my Bunsen with you. Yeah. Yeah, that's repetitive, though. So that's like I feel like Bunsen burning. But, I've been sitting in science class in a lab, my hands sweating on the valve. There's a voice in my head that drives the heel of my palm. It's this sweet, sweet voice calling from deep within me. It feels so good. It feels like what I imagine love and two-way attraction feels like. It's saying, need you to turn me. And it's like halfway through class, and I'm turning you, valve, shifting you a little bit. But when that valve gets lonely, You know, it's longing. Oh, am I longing too for that connection? It's too much. That valve needs a tube, coming in from a Bunsen. Don't need nothing at all. Because I got a thing, it's called Bunsen burner love. I got a wave of my palm to turn that knob. It's Bunsen love. There's a song playing in my head. It doesn't even have a tune. It just has that feel. Not even a forgotten song. And I can feel the need to turn that valve and connect it and let it flow. Let that gas flow. This knob, this Bunsen burner's got me hypnotized, and I'm ready to start the Bunsen burning surprise. Because I got a thing. It's called Bunsen burner love. I've got a lot of love for the Bunsen burner love, man. Yeah, I don't need to speed. I can take my time. But I gotta play it cool because the teacher's looking my way. Gotta take care. If only I could be alone with you, Bunsen burner and nozzles. It's coming on strong. That feeling to turn you, to connect you, to light your fire, baby. And yeah, I can hear it on. They'll probably be talking about it. Bunsen. But they could call me Bunsen boy. They could call me nozzle boy. See, are you stroking the nozzle there? And I say, yeah, I got Bunsen burner love. When I get lonely, and I'm sure I've had enough, that Bunsen burning touch comes in. It's almost like it comes in from above. I don't need nothing else at all but my hand on that nozzle and the attachment of the hose, because I got a thing, it's called Bunsen love. I got a fire from my belly to the sky. I got a thing, it's called Bunsen burner love. I got a thing, it's called Bunsen love, man. So yeah, that's my ode to you, Bunsen burner. But I think about that. Some people might say, we'll just spend a few more minutes dissecting this, because you're right. What is it about this? Freud, what would Jung and Freud are watching now, and all the greats laugh, rolfing on me, rolfing at my expense. But yeah, they know it's the truth, because wherever they are, the big farm in the sky, all those people have known me. They saw me there. So let's think about it. The truth is, right? I was yearning for a fiery connection. I was yearning for, I'm trying to think about this. Well, let's just talk about it metaphorically and truthfully. So there was the cold metal. But this unfamiliarity, right? This newness, it was tactile. There's two knobs and two nozzles normally for each side of the desk. There's something shiny about it, right? I hadn't really been exposed to it. There's also something concrete. There was a weight to it. Even though you didn't have to hold it up, you could sense the mass in your hand. That this was well made. Even when I tapped on it multiple times and held the handle, this wasn't a handle for water, like a normal handle I had experience with. Who'd like this is Chuck Tingle. I'm feeling like this is a bit of a tingler, but indirect tingler in my hand. And I could move it, and I had some control, even though the authority figure may have turned off the control to the actual gas. At this point, it was just like a dream, like a fantasy. I guess that's like a rock and roll fantasy. Instead, I had a Bunsen burner fantasy, and it really was that simple. Like, let's play it out that the gas is on. And then there's the nozzle, and there's something about those nozzles too. The weight, the mass, the strength, but the different notches on there. No, that really got me, man. You got me. Holy cow, do you? There's something, again, tactile. I could put my finger on it and bump it down each notch. And then again, go in each notch. I could tap the tip of my finger against that little circle that the gas came out, right? Maybe you even make a sound if the classroom was quiet enough and people were probably taking a test or whatever I was supposed to be paying attention for. Hey, you had my full attention. Every inch of you. Holy moly. And again, I'm not even doing this to be funny. This is just capturing this truthful moment that I had over and over again. And yeah, it has like other things in there, but this is also a real moment I had. I shared moments with a Bunsen burner, whatever, not, whatever the heck the term for the thingamajig is. Bunsen wouldn't burn without it, right? And that's how I spent most of my time, was just with that nozzle and the handle and the metal apparatus. But then there was a time, and I believe the Bunsen burners had a red hose. Sometimes the hose had been trimmed. It was well worn, I went to a school that probably didn't get Bunsen burners, but maybe the Bunsen burners had been there the whole time. But it had that hose, so I could feel the rubbery hose in my hand and the light somewhere between faded red and maroon. And finally I would get to connect it to the connector and make sure it was snug, right? The no gas. But then you say, okay, is it snug? I don't want to over snug it, and then the teacher's telling us what to do. And then down that hose, it ran to the actual Bunsen burner, which was a little bit like a metal candle. Nothing. And then you say, this is what all it is. It's just a tube with a base. And then it has this thing, and that's it. That's where the magic happens. And then normally it would either be attached to the thing you would put the, not the beaker, but whatever the heck the thing is that you'd hold stuff in. And again, the teacher would probably go over making sure you use something that's Pyrex and, all the rules. Maybe that's as far as we were allowed to get, but usually there was a stand. There was also a different kind of metal, but still, a heavy, strong metal that maybe you could attach to the base of the Bunsen burner, or maybe just slid the Bunsen burner underneath there. Not sure about that because I wasn't really interested in that, or the beaker, or the chemical reaction. I was interested, I guess, in the, I'd already got most of my interest in that long tube. And for me, that was really what it's about. It's like, wait a second, so I get to turn this, and maybe there was some anxiety that first time, that second time, that third time, that 10th time. Did I get the tube on? Again, I'm not trying to be funny. This is really what it was like for me, and not even speaking in a metaphor. I'm not speaking in a metaphor. Yeah, though the people in heaven are laughing like it is a metaphor. And they say, no, this was just, this is what I had. Then it's like, okay, now I got to make sure. And then maybe if your lab partner was there, maybe you were discussing, were you working as a team or as an individual? Where they were like, the teacher said, Andy, you cannot be involved in this at all other than as an observer and a setter-upper. So maybe that's why I had so much investment on just those parts. But yeah, you'd have the thingamajig that made the spark. You would turn the gas on. And then they had to be like a blue, yellowy, orangey, golden flame. And that sound, I can't do it on a sleep podcast because there's more water in it and more tongue, and it would make that sound. And again, I knew that that's where I had to maintain control. Up until then, I had been totally lost in you. I knew that that's where I had to behave appropriately, because then, like I said, well, if you mess with it once it's on, you probably got to go to the principals. Like for me, once a Bunsen burner, I didn't want to lose the rest of it, the process I'd just been through, the connection. Maybe that's what I was really like looking for there, not the metaphor you're all thinking of and giggling about, which is fine. I know that's what it was like, the connection that something flows through. It's connecting and opening the valve. And yeah, maybe for me, it didn't always result in a flame, a burning flame. But it was like loving that. That's what I was looking for. Connection and flow. Some would say that it's release. I said, no. That's your metaphor, not mine. So I don't know. I guess I didn't realize this is where it would go. I'm not like, but that's where I came from the intro. It's like I couldn't stop thinking about it. I always had Bunsen burner on my mind, always on my mind. So thank you to Golden Earring and Bad Company and Paul Rogers and Classic Rock for leading me here. I didn't think this is where we'd end up. But yeah, eventually turn the valve off and let stuff cool down. And then you take it apart. I don't know if they used a timer for that or how they did that. Probably we had gloves and goggles and smocks on. Almost positive about that part, but I didn't think about that because all my focus was drawn in on that handle and that tube and that metal. And that's my experience. I'm sure other people had a different experience. I'm sure people were watching me being like, that poor kid. But I'm grateful to be able to rest my hand on something and let it slowly warm up under my touch so that it can relax and expand and unwind. Good night. All right, I want to thank everybody that became a patron recently. I want to thank Catherine, Jordan, and Katie. Thanks, and good night to Jennifer, Greg, and Jack. Thanks, and good night to Ty, Andrew, and Jody. Thanks, and good night to Linda, Adrian, and Peggy. Thanks, and good night to Suzanne, Kalia, and C. Thanks, and good night to Rob, Avery, and Tanagra. Thanks, and good night to Sylvie, Deborah, and Jen. Thanks, good night to Leah, Jennifer, and Siban. Thanks, good night to Faith, Rod, and Beverly. Thanks, good night to Lori, Evelyn, and Kimberly. Thanks, good night to Sarah, Cassie, and Melanie. Thanks, good night to Sebastian, Colin, and Sophie. Thanks, and good night to Marty and Hay. And thanks, and good night to Nora and Kelsey. Thanks, everybody, for supporting the show on Patreon, supporting the show on other places who are supporting their sponsors. That's how we're able to be here for free twice a week. I couldn't do it without you. And I want to thank everybody that spreads the word about the podcast or shares about it. It's a huge, huge way to help the show. I really appreciate it. It helps keep the show free for everybody. And also these Tuck You In sponsors have helped us, been part of us growing the show and all the extra free episodes in the feed. Thanks, and good night, everybody.